It makes me feel really good because it feels like they're really putting a lot of support into this character. Because I have to be honest and say that I wasn't sure if people were going to make that connection. There is the paranoid part of me who still has that chip on his shoulder from coming from a professional wrestling background and having a hard time struggling to find work. If people are going to think, well, he didn't have any dialogue because he can't act. But I think, I think I've proven them wrong with the other films that I've done, and I don't feel necessarily like this film. I would have been happy if Hinks just had remained voiceless, because I think it would have made him just that much more mysterious, that much more interesting. So I don't feel like Hinks didn't need any dialogue. He's interesting enough without the dialogue. I think dialogue would have made him less interesting, and there would have been a much less of a connection. Because I love that connection, because I'm all about the nostalgic James Bond. I'm a fan of the franchise going way back to the beginning. And I think that people who are as well will make the connection right off the bat. And the people who aren't will become very curious and go back and watch. And that's going to be a great thing, especially for younger audiences, because it'll make them bigger fans. And that's always a good thing, because they really get to appreciate how this character has evolved throughout the years, how he's changed, how different actors have had their spin on the character. And that's a good thing, I think, for the franchise, but even more so for fans and for the audience. Because it's really, James Bond is a special thing. And it's not, Bond is not really a part of British culture or American culture or pop culture. It's really become a part of human culture. I mean, everybody's familiar with James Bond. It's just that much instilled in human culture. Well, Daniel, right off the bat, really welcomed me with open arms. I think initially it was his idea to have Sam look at me for this part, but it's something very comforting when such a megastar and the guy who, he is the man, just welcomes you, with open arms. I mean, it's a very special feeling. It puts you at ease right away. And I also think that, in turn, Daniel saw in me that I wasn't there to be competitive. I don't have a huge ego. I'm not going to make everything all about me. I'm more interested in the character. I think, in turn, he appreciated that, and he really let me know that he appreciated it. And we worked really hard and made a connection. We made a connection which developed into an on-screen chemistry. And when you see it and when you see what we've done together, it really is kind of magical and it's special. And it's, all the scenes that we have together are going to become very iconic scenes. So I really take pride in that. And Sam is, I was so excited about working with Sam. and I don't think I was excited as my acting coach was. He was just thrilled to death. And he was like, Sam did this and he did that. And I was like, yes, I know. And I had done some research on Sam as well, so I was very familiar with all of his accolades and him as a person, because he's just a very comforting person. He's a very comforting director. He's very easygoing. What I love about him is he's such a gentleman. He's so proper. But every once in a while, he'll just let a choice word just fly around. And it tickles me half to death because it makes him relatable. Because he is one of those guys that you just kind of you put him on a pedestal because he's that exceptional of a man. But he was always very up close and personal with his directing. He never yelled at me and never screamed at me. And he never made me feel self-conscious about anything I was doing. It was always a conversation. He would come out and we'd be this close, and this is how our conversation would be. Very, well, should try this, maybe try this, try that, try that. We'll do it like this, and this is what he'd be thinking at this point. And it was always very personal like that. And as a performer, because it's a terrifying thing, it's a self-conscious thing. You really got to control your inhibitions. But when he makes you feel comfortable at everything, then you get excited about it. You want to do it over and over, and you're not reading, over-analyzing everything. That's priceless, especially for someone like me who's very new to all this. It's funny when you ask that now. I was really after the very heavy dialogue-driven films, stuff that would keep me away from, again, the typecasting, the Scorsese type stuff, the Tarantino type stuff, Guy Ritchie, which we've talked about before. Guy Ritchie's one of my very favorite directors in the world, and he's actually right now at the top of my list of people that I really want to work with. But that was kind of stuff I wanted until this came along. And it was really, it was a really cool thing because I think, Sam really wanted to feel me out about whether I'd be willing to take a character without dialogue. And after he explained to me what he was looking for, what he was going after, that feel, that connection with the very nostalgic type henchman that hadn't been done, since Jaws, I couldn't have been any more excited. And I just said, stop. I said, really? And this is what I said. I said, you don't have to sell me on this role. I get it. So when at the very tail end of our meeting, I said, just so we're very clear, I really want this part, man. I really want to be a part of this. And he said, that's great, because we really want you. So yeah, I mean, that was the type of stuff that I was after, and I didn't see this coming. Not in a million years did I see it coming. And if you had asked me, a couple years ago, if I'd take a role as a henchman, a henchman that didn't speak, I'd say, hell no, not in a million years. If you said, well, he's a James Bond henchman, I probably still would have said yes. I don't know if it was so much a backstory. We didn't really talk much about backstory. What we did talk a lot about was mindset and thoughts. Sam was real good at just planting a thought in my head that would let you in, on the mindset of this character through body language, through demeanor. So it was more of that than really a backstory. But you're right. He does feel like a very nostalgic, classic henchman, but he's just done in a very modern, updated way. He's a combination of Jaws and Odd Job with a modern, very dark twist. It's a very tricky thing. It's weird. It's still a learning process for me. And I really rely and I trust on fight choreographers like Olivier Snyder. I mean, he was very instrumental in everything we did, because a lot of stuff that feels good to me just doesn't look good on film. And it's just like subtle things that you would never think of, like simple things like, when I'm fighting, I've trained in martial arts and boxing for years and years, and the first thing you always do is keep your hands up. It's very important. You keep your hands up. All the time you keep your hands up. Film, if you keep your hands up, especially my big old Mitch, you can't even see my face at all. Just completely. So the first thing you do is drop your hands. And he constantly had to tell me, drop your hands. And I was like, it feels wrong, but it looks great on film. And just, the punches on, big broad punches on film, they just look incredible. You swing a big broad punch in a real fight, you're just gonna get punched right in the face. It's the shortest line. But just, simple, subtle things like that. And also working towards, camera angles. It's all a learning process, man. It's all new to me. Even though you think I'd have a lot of experience at it, I just really don't. So it's a testament to them, to their professionalism.